Welcome back to another video. My name is Derek, and today we're going to be taking a look at this iPhone 13 Pro. As you can see, it is clearly broken on the back and on the front. In fact, the impact here lines up perfectly with the explosion there. So obviously it needs a new screen, a new back glass. So let's fix it. Alright, so here you can see we clearly have a damaged and bleeding display. And here on the back, you can see it's quite damaged as well. Now there are several ways to replace the back. You can use a laser machine. There are certain chemicals that help break up the bond of the adhesive. But say you don't have a laser machine. Today I'm going to show you the process without a laser machine. And in order to ensure that I do this safely, we're going to be removing everything from the inside. I do have to replace the screen anyway. So once we get that off, we'll gut the phone as much as we need to, and then we'll start on the back. I'm going to get out my TBK screen separator machine. We'll take out the two pentalobe screws at the bottom, and then with the assistance of this machine and some isopropyl alcohol, the screen will come off easily. So we'll go ahead and stick that in. We'll clamp it on down, turn it on. And it takes about a minute to warm up before it'll tell us it's ready to go. I'm going to lower the arm, and then we'll slowly start to lift it back up now that it's green and ready to go. Add some isopropyl alcohol around the border, and we'll let it lift off the frame. And just like that, the screen wants to come up. We'll go ahead and turn it off, and we'll loosen it, and we'll take it out. And we'll carefully remove the top of the screen. It's easy enough to pop away the screen with just a fingernail. And we'll set it off to the side. Looks like I'm the first one in this. The impact did travel into the battery a little bit, so that might be a concern in the future. And we'll just take out the screws and the brackets. That way we can disconnect the battery and the display and the proximity sensor. And we'll set that aside for now. We'll remove the camera bracket. That way we can pop off the bracket and remove the cameras just like that. In order to remove the motherboard, we do need to get at the 5G antenna. Now, one of the downsides about doing any type of repair like this where there's been so much damage to it is you run the risk of running into a phone that has an issue with service or Wi-Fi due to the impact. These logic boards are susceptible to all sorts of splitting of the midframe, causing Wi-Fi and Bluetooth issues along with service issues. And so removing all of the screws that hold the motherboard down can reveal what's already happened to it. So one way or another, those services are going to pop up eventually. One way or another, those issues are going to pop up eventually, regardless of whether or not it's worked on. But it's one of those things where you got to keep it in mind. I'm going to pull off the adhesive by just rolling it up on the screwdriver here. Add some isopropyl alcohol under it. I'm going to put a little bit of tension on the battery. Nothing that's crazy to warp it or anything, but we'll allow that to help separate the adhesive from the battery so we can remove it safely. And sooner or later, it'll start to just let go on its own. And then we can carefully lift it out and we'll pull on the adhesive. Which one will let go first? All right, just gonna rub out a little wrinkle there. And other than the clear impact, the battery is now flat. Quickly clear away all of the old adhesive. Now we can remove the 5G antenna. We'll pop off the bracket and then disconnect the connector. We'll pop out the SIM tray, and then you always need to push back the little SIM tray ejector, otherwise it's going to get caught. And we'll remove the standoff screws, disconnect all of the connectors, and then we'll carefully lift out the motherboard and set it aside. I'm also going to remove the proximity. I'm also going to remove the Face ID. I'm also going to remove the front-facing camera assembly. So let's remove quickly the speaker, that little bracket, and the last screw. And now the ear speaker will come out, and so will the front-facing camera assembly. Everything else I'm not too worried about. Let's remove the LiDAR sensor really fast as well. And that way we won't potentially damage it doing the glass removal. But the rest I'm not too concerned about. So from here, let's go ahead and start the back glass removal. For this process, I'm going to be getting out a clamping fixture so that we can secure the phone in place. We'll clamp it on down. We will be using a glass breaker around the camera area because this glass is really thick and almost impossible to get out from under the camera frames without a glass breaker. So we just want to make sure we don't damage the microphone or the flash in the process. I've already removed the LiDAR sensor and the cameras, so we don't have to worry about those. We need not to damage the external charger, the external charging pad back here, or anything on the charge port, or any of the antennas up here. So we basically just have to be careful everywhere. I'm going to start by giving the glass a single punch. Eye protection is a good idea at this point. And just like that, we've started the glass breaking process. I'm just going to go around, and I'll just carefully go around and keep breaking it up. And we'll keep going around until we've shattered the majority of the glass here. All right, and I'm going to wipe off all the shards. All right, I'm going to carefully chip away at the glass here, giving it a little bit of tension and it'll break away. We'll throw away the glass as it breaks. And I'm going to take some time to just remove shard after shard after shard. Once I've kind of cleared this camera area, we can focus on the back here, where we'll be applying some heat. As I remove the shard, I got to make sure that the microphone doesn't come with it. So I'm going to add some isopropyl alcohol, just a drop, and I'll gently pry in between the microphone and the glass shard so that the microphone stays behind. And that way we can just gently pick at all this glass. All right, at a certain point, we'll have all of the glass removed except for some of the teeny tiny shards that have stuck down on the adhesive, which we can remove fairly simply. We'll put it back in our clamping fixture here. And I've got this tool that I typically use for removing like CPUs and things like that. What we'll do is I'm just going to switch out the tip here real fast. And with this tool, we're going to be able to get down on the adhesive and really scrape away at the glue. And we're going to get some heat involved as well. All right, we'll come in with our hot air, and I'm just going to carefully scrape away at the glue here. And I'm just going to work around the cameras, gently removing all of the glue and other shards of glass. And for those of you wondering, I've got my temperature set at 350 or 340 degrees Celsius. Not that it really matters. You can play around with that temperature all you want. Probably go lower. You could probably go higher. It all depends on how much time you're going to be spending in any particular area. And we can go around the corner and really get at the shards there. And then as we come around, we got to make sure we don't melt. All right, now we can focus on removing the glass in the top section here. We'll warm up the area and we'll carefully work around the edge, getting under the glass until we can lift up the shards and scrape away the adhesive. We'll heat up each shard and take the shard back as far as I can without it cracking. Sure, it'll crack any second now because it's getting really weak. There it goes. One shard at a time, just like the movement. And we're going to carefully scrape at and remove any shards of glass from the flex cables here. And we'll work our way down the side here to remove the remaining shards, cleaning up all of the side adhesive as we go. And we'll come towards the bottom. Alright, we're going to switch over to this large flat blade to really save the wireless charging unit from getting damaged at all. We'll slide it under and we'll push it on through, and then we'll carefully slice around. We'll lift off that and slowly pull that away. The little sticker on the back crinkled up a little bit, but this is so thin that I'm not even going to be worried about it. Let's just focus on getting the remaining shards off. I'm just going to go around the border and get rid of any of the mist adhesive that I left behind. It sometimes harbors shards of glass. We also want to be able to fill that spot with some new glue with the new back glass. So removing it definitely helps with all of that. All right, now I'm going to take some Captain tape and I'm going to lay it over the little gap here, smooth it out. That Captain tape is very thin, so not going to create any high points here. But what it'll allow me to do now is flip this around and I can put back the magnet. It goes right there so it doesn't want to move around on us. One of the big benefits to removing the glass shard by shard and careful like this is none of the glass ends up on the inside of the phone, which is typically what happens if you do just a laser off the back glass, is shards will fall in all of these teeny little gaps and start to coat components like the battery and the screen and the cameras and little shards of glass. So now that we've got every single shard off this phone, it's going to be a lot simpler to put the back glass on. I'm just going to peel off this little sticker. I don't like that it's bunged up. And just going to go around and make sure there's no teeny little shards somehow still on there, which I don't think that there are. Now it's time to reinstall everything. I'll start with the LiDAR sensor and put back its bracket and screws. We'll put back the front-facing camera assembly and the ear speaker, and we'll screw back on the screws. Now we can put back the motherboard, and we'll make sure that the 5G antenna goes in its slot and connects in to the module. And then we can screw back in the bracket, and we'll connect back up the flex cables. You kind of have to secure the back because the frame is no longer as rigid because it doesn't have the back glass supporting it. Okay, all right, we've got basically everything connected back up to the motherboard. We can put back the SIM card tray. We can put back the rear camera and connect it back up and put back the bracket and the screws. All right, and now we can install the battery. All right, we'll get the new battery adhesive. We'll line it on up and we'll stick it on down and rub out all of the little bubbles. And then we can peel away the protector here and install the battery in the phone just like that. Now I'm glad that the impact didn't hit the display IC. Got our new screen here, and I'm going to we'll take the little flex cable and solder on the IC to it. So we're going to go under the microscope real quick and we'll remove the display. Actually, first, let's get this proximity sensor off. I'm just going to take off the bracket and screws real fast. We'll add some isopropyl alcohol to the flex cable, and we'll carefully get under the flex and lift it up. And then we'll carefully peel it away from the back of the display, and then to carefully lift away the microphone and the proximity sensor and ambient light sensor. Gently, gently, gently lift on them without poking the flexes. And we'll carefully lift. I'm going to transfer over the little microphone sticker. And let's install it on the new screen real fast. And put back the bracket and screws. Now I'm going to go quickly do the display IC transfer. I guess I might as well just show you right here how to remove the display IC. So the first thing that we've got to do is warm up and remove the underfill that surrounds the border. I'm going to make sure the display is clamped into place. Okay, we'll clean up the border by kind of scraping at the flex a little bit, and we'll remove the underfill. Alright, now that I've got the underfill removed from the border, we're going to focus the heat on top of the IC. And I'm just going to keep moving it around until it wants to slide in, and there it pops right off. I was still at the 340 Celsius, and we'll take this under the microscope to do the rest. But as you can see, I was actually able to not damage the flex cable, which typically happens. All right, let's go and get this installed. All right, so what we'll need to do is take some flux, I'm gonna get some wick and my iron tip. We're gonna go down on there and we're gonna scrape away the underfill while removing the factory solder. All right, almost all of the factory solder is gone. Now I'm going to take the time to gently scrape at the board and bring in the green surface. Not scraping I'm just skating across the surface of the IC. And we're going to go back to the wick and clean it up a little bit more. Add some more flux and go over it one more time, making sure we don't miss any of the underfill. You can see it and you can feel it. And back in with the wick just to make sure we flatten out all of the pads. Take some isopropyl alcohol and a microfiber cloth and let's clean up the surface. All right, let's take out the IC. I'm going to clean up the edges real fast. All right, now we're going to take a teeny bit of flux, and what I'm going to do is we're just going to smear it around, making sure it coats all of the IC, and then I'm going to scrape off the excess, just like that. We'll get out the flex. As you can see, it's already pre-balled, and there's a nice little dot here that'll help us line it up. We'll flip it over, and you can see that there's a dot on the IC, so that tells us where it needs to go. We'll line it up just like that. Nice and squared with the flex. Still have my hot air set at 340. We'll slowly warm up the flex in the IC, and we'll wait for it to snap down into place, kind of like it's doing right now. I clean up the border real quick of flex. I think it's already done, but let's just examine it from the side and see if we need to do any more. That looks nice. I can see that all of the joints down there, although it's kind of hard to see, they're nice pancaked out. Let's see on the other side, same thing. All the way around it's really uniform. The IC is definitely sucked down to the flex. And I didn't have too much flux to make that difficult. So now we can solder this onto the display. Alright, so let's see right here we've got these little white lines, these guides that tell us where the flex goes. I've isolated the flex with a piece of metal so it's not touching the back of the display. Let's peel away the protector for the adhesive. Got some double-sided tape on the back of this. And the nice thing about the flex is it's already got enough solder on there for me to not have to add any. We'll just add some flux. We'll line up the flex and we'll keep moving it around until we like its positioning. There we go. I like where that's at right there. So now we'll take the iron. Now we'll take our soldering iron. I'm going to push down on the flex a little bit here and we'll pull the solder through the holes just like that. Okay, that's all we need to do there. Clean up the flux. All right, so we've got the IC there. I'm just going to peel off one of these black stickers and we'll use it to protect the solder joints there. Now let's take it over to the phone. I'm just going to do a test real quick and make sure everything works. I don't know if the battery has any charge or not, but we're going to find out shortly. We'll connect up the display, connect up the proximity sensor, and now we can connect up the battery. And let's see if it wants to power on. Hold down the power button. Nothing wants to happen. So let's plug it in. All right, so let's plug it on in and see if that gives us any life. And there we've got the battery charging symbol. So it's just a dead battery for now. I'm going to assume that everything's good. So what we're going to go ahead and do is install the display adhesive, get the display fully installed, and then we can flip it on over once the display is installed, and we'll put on the back glass. And actually, as I look at this display adhesive, there's nothing wrong with it. It's all fully intact. I'm not missing any of it. So I'm just actually going to use it as is. I feel like it's slightly better than the aftermarket anyway. So we'll go ahead and peel off the protectors for the graphite heat sinks on the back of the display. And we'll go ahead and connect up the display again and the proximity sensor again. And now we'll put back the bracket and screws. And now we'll connect back up the battery. And we will put back the last bracket with its screws. And now we'll close up the phone. All right, now that that's closed up, we'll put back the penelope screws and tighten those on down. All right, we'll get out our new back glass and some cold pressed glue. And I'm gonna go around the border and we're gonna give it a nice solid bead all the way around, filling up the corners as well. And then we'll go around the top. And then we'll zigzag in and out of the cameras, around the microphone. And then what we're gonna do is we're basically gonna follow Apple's design, which you would normally see if we had used a laser machine. But given that we use heat, all of the adhesive came off with the glass. But it basically just snakes around like this. And that should do it. We'll get the back glass, make sure that all the cameras go through, and then the flash also goes through. We'll line up the corners and gently push them on down. And then we'll go ahead and clamp up the edges here. I'll start with the corners and I'll make my way around. And we'll clamp it every other inch, giving it plenty of pressure everywhere. And this actually will also be clamping down the screen, compressing it into that adhesive, which is nice. And while we wait for this to all set up, what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and plug in power and we'll let it charge up. All right, so it's had enough time to charge up. I don't have the passcode to it to test everything, but it's basically all fixed and ready to go. I don't have the passcode to test out all of the functions, but I'm normally able to fix them if it does run into it. But as far as I can tell, it looks great. There's nothing warm about it. There's nothing going on that's weird. It's charging properly. Everything seems like it's going to be fine. So that wraps up today's video. Obviously, this still needs some more time to cure, and I will be double checking to make sure everything works properly. But that's how to replace the display, swap over the display IC, and the back glass without a laser machine. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Make sure to like the video if you found it helpful. Let me know if there's something that you'd like to see in a future video. Thanks a ton for watching. We'll see you in the next video.